A happy Monday to you all. Welcome back to another episode of let's be real here. It's Fireside Bricky. And the gameplay in the background is of the video game Dorf Romantic. If you have not heard of this game, I would actually highly recommend you look it up. There is a new game the studio is making called Starbirds that I believe is based on that one YouTube channel with all the birds that does like science and stuff. I actually can never pronounce it correctly, but it's basically a little hexagonal city puzzle game in a way, and it is extremely cozy. We talked about second monitor content type first monitor / content video games, like how Balatro was my game that I would play while I was actually more interested in the second monitor content. This is a similar game to that. It is incredibly cozy, sweet, and has a puzzle mechanic that is just challenging enough to be enjoyable in the sense that it keeps your brain occupied, but not challenging enough to where it is frustrating. I find it to be an extremely enjoyable title. So that's in the background. Of course, those of you who know Fireside Bricky know that you don't really need to worry about that. You are more than welcome to just listen to this in a more podcast style format. Go drive in the car, do some work, whatever is required. Go to the gym even, though I'm not quite sure if this is what I would refer to as very good gym material. Today, we have a pretty enjoyable little question from the chat. This one comes to us from the Fireside Bricky channel on Discord. A lot of the comments on the prior video have been very respectful and very, well, not to say that it wouldn't be respectful, but I mean more so just very kind stuff. A lot of people kind of providing their input, providing their feedback, and kind of talking a little bit more about all that kind of their solutions, their livelihood in the kind of stuff that we chat about. So I really appreciate that. I think it's a very kind thing for a lot of people to kind of come out and bring out their experiences. And so I just wanted to kind of shout that out. I really appreciate it. So this is a very long question. It is sent to us by Retsana on our Discord. And I'm probably not going to read the entire thing because it has a lot of backstory, particularly related to them. But the main bulk of it is, do you have advice for moving past or processing the idea that you've wasted a significant amount of time? Now, the context that they go into is mainly related to their aspects in the job market and kind of moving through after college, basically. Getting a good job out of college, couple of years into their career, and then eventually just not really feeling into the environment and stagnating a bit in a lot of things, including fitness, actively learning, etc. They are currently 32 years old now, however, still in debt due to the issues that they ran into, and they mostly feel guilty about playing any kinds of video games because they can look over, see the amount of hours they have in the video game, and then just kind of feel like they've wasted that away. So this obviously has a lot of, I think, very interesting parallels to real life, where I think one of the things that I've noticed the most, especially when it comes to a lot of the people in the younger generation, because we have a surprisingly wide array of people that watch this channel. I would say we definitely trend a bit older, and I think that's more so due to the fact that Warhammer has been a much more popular thing lately, though, well, I was going to say the VTuber type stuff has actually lowered the age a little bit, but that isn't necessarily true. Quite a lot of people who watch VTubers are a bit older, so we tend to trend into the late 20s to mid 30s region, but we do have a lot of folks that are younger and sometimes teenagers and the like. And I've noticed particularly that the feeling that I've wasted my time is something that becomes a lot more prominent at a younger and younger age. Honestly, for a while, I feel as if the people who think to themselves, oh, I've really wasted my time was, when you hit your 40s back when, right? It's like, oh, I'm 40 now. I'm fully middle age. It's all going to have to slow down. And now that feels like it's going back. It's, oh, well, I'm in my mid 30s now. Oh, I'm 30 now. Oh, I'm 25. I'm even 20. And people are feeling as if they are just not doing what they're supposed to do, so to speak. And I think it is actually mainly the fault of social media in general. I know that might seem a little bit silly and maybe a little bit scapegoaty or the obvious answer, like, well, you could blame basically everything on social media. But I do think it is very much the case. I think that the widespread nature of how do you say it? Just generally the collective social media has created that issue. There's actually a really funny quote from another YouTuber. I'm sure some of you know who he is. Casually Explained. He had some really enjoyable joke that I always like, which is something along the lines of, I like, if I ever want to feel like I'm getting ahead on something or something like that, I like to type in the phrase that, the hobby and then done by a 12-year-old Chinese girl. I always find that really funny because I think it's extremely true. There will always be some kind of kid protege that is better than you at anything and at everything. And it's going to happen because there are like 7 billion people on the planet. And almost every single one of them has some form of social media. And if you're good at something, posting about it is not only a really good way to get people to see it and get people interested in it, but also to make money. And the advent, not even just the advent, but the existence of social media as a company in a method to make money has irreparable damage to many of people's psyche that I cannot even begin to get into. But, at the end of the day, the concept of social media is in its own right not a bad thing. Everyone is out there to learn about each other. Everyone's out there to, hey, I want to communicate with people more easily and more frequently. And that is the entire reason those things existed. But of course, because we live in here's my Joker moment. We live in a society that is mainly focused around the financial incentives of that social media. It has become a problem. It is the fact that every single platform that uses that is there to try to make more and more profit because all the usual reasonings is its own major issue. And so I think this has led to a general feeling of wastefulness that people are getting even older in any metric. I mean, I've heard people who feel like they've wasted their time and they're 25 years old. And because they don't have their degree finished, for example. People normally finish their college degree at 22 or 23, and they've wasted their time. Or perhaps the idea that they haven't moved out of their parents' house yet because, job market or whatever. I mean, I have no issues with anything like that lately, mainly because the amount of people who still live at their parents' house is indicative of just how the economy tends to be doing. And so that's not a real problem. But there is that constant feeling that like, oh, I am not doing enough because there is so many people out there that are doing more at a younger age. And I hate to sound so, not prudish, but like, I don't know, hoity-toity in a way, whatever the phrase you want to use. But to really kind of nail that down, you have to start asking yourself, like, what are you here for? Like life, man, hits blunt. I mean, you have to start really, like, I mentioned this, I think, in the first Fireside Bricky or whatever, like the 2 weeks ago or whatever. Saving money is not a moral good. There is no moral strength in saving money outside of personal security for yourself and loved ones because life costs money. And, especially in this particular comment here from the user that we're having talk about this, is specifically about, the amount of difficulties that came into going into a work environment for a career that you did not enjoy. There was not advancement into the career. You were not actively learning, a seemingly hostile environment under a significant amount of debt. And I hate to say this, but I do wonder if this is just partially a country thing, like, Is this a scenario that would happen in every country? I would assume probably not. Is this a raising? Is this a nature versus nurture type thing that would happen in every single country? And I don't think it is. This feels like a predominantly specific to where you live type situation. Because the idea that, well, I mean, depending on, let's say, I had a Danish exchange student back when, and I just know that he would never ever think these things, right? He would never be in a position that could have him accumulate such a large amount of debt or feel so bad that his career was not moving forward in a certain way. Maybe financials, because everyone wants more money, but not necessarily like a lack of a career advancement, so to speak. And it kind of makes me wonder if the priorities are wrong. It mentioned that you tab over and you see that you have 2,300 hours in Path of Exile alone. Rookie numbers, I must say. I mean, the average Path of Exile player has at least add another 0 to that one. But I mean, at that time, you have to. I guess there is which way, Western male, pick which fork in the road you want to aim for. Are you looking at 2,300 hours of Path of Exile and you feel like you've wasted your life because you played so much Path of Exile? Or are you looking at 2,300 hours of Path of Exile and you feel as if you are not getting the satisfaction and you're doing it just completely mindlessly? Because I think those are two very different things. I look at some of the hours in video games that I have, and I don't actually regret them depending on the game. For me, it's a little different because I make money off of this. But if I look at something like, say, League of Legends, I mean, God, I had far more than 2,300 hours in League of Legends, but it was a job. And from that point, it was perfectly fine. And I met some very enjoyable people on there. And so even though I do kind of look at that and I go, oof, those were hours well spent because I enjoyed myself and I met some great folks from it. I can actually look over at my Steam, right? I'm going to do that right now. Where am I in terms of good old Destiny? Destiny 2. 716 hours, also rookie numbers for the average Destiny player. I don't regret the 716 hours I played of Destiny 2, and I have made very few bits of content on Destiny. That was not a job. For me, the experience I gained playing Destiny is actually very enjoyable, which I know is kind of a meme and a joke, but I will say it once and I'll say it again. A Destiny raid is one of the peak feelings in gaming. The first time you run Last Wish is absolute cinema. And I don't regret that in the slightest. I really enjoyed myself. I have great memories from it. And at the end of the day, when you're on your deathbed, all you're going to care about are great memories, right? And I know it sounds really weird and maybe just a little bit, I don't know, overly symbolic or overly kind of, it's relating the philosophy of being alive to have I spent too much time playing Path of Exile. And I know it sounds so kind of ridiculous, but you do kind of have to sit down and ask yourself that. But then, of course, this is the fork in the road, right? Because on one hand, if you look at that many hours and you're like, yeah, that was pretty fun. I really enjoyed myself doing that. I really like Path of Exile. Then cool. Then you've done it. Hell yeah. Awesome. You have done what you needed to do, and you've done so well. That means it has, those 2,300 hours have given you what they're supposed to be, which is an enjoyable thing for you to do. What is the purpose of a video game? It is to hit a certain center of your brain that you're looking for. It can be learning about a really good story and having a really good narrative experience, one that, either is emotional or exciting or curious or interesting. It is to provide yourself with some kind of competitive nature. That is very much the case in lots of esports types games. They love the competition, the spirit of competition. There is obviously the challenge. That could be a Dark Souls type thing, an Elden Ring, a FromSoft game that you feeling like a sense of accomplishment from doing so. And then there is just, of course, like natural, just fun, relaxation especially. Path of Exile would most likely be under the banner of relaxation and maybe a little bit of competitive. And the only reason is because a lot of effort is put into, making your build proper. But for the most part, relaxation, right? And if you have had the relaxation during that, then you've done it. You've been perfectly fine. But if you feel like your time should be better spent, now that's a very different question, because that is something that I still think is very acceptable as an option for yourself. Like, if you look at this game and you think I could have done better with my time, well, firstly, you have to define what does better entail. But then secondly, there is the chance that you probably are correct. That, there is things you could have done better. But I mean, at the end of a video game is a vice, And if you're kind of sitting there and thinking to yourself, oof, like that is rough. I spent so much of my time doing that. I guess the question is a lot more, why did you spend so much time doing that? Why did you spend so many hours on this game? What drove you to do that? And it could be because your career path currently was stagnating. You were stressed out, you were under lots of debt, and it kind of burned you out mentally, so you started playing that game. You know what's hilarious? You know what my burnout game is? It's goddamn Balatro. Granted, this game here currently, the Dorf Romantic, is quite fun, and I actually really like this as a background game. But like Balatro, for example, that kind of is my burnout game. It's actually a little bit strange. Sometimes when I have an overwhelming amount of work to do, it makes me do less work. It makes me kind of crash out mentally a little bit. Like, if I have so much I have going on, I will tell myself I got to at least take 30 minutes so I can reset my brain. And I'll open up Balatro and I'll end up spending way too much time on it because I have such a hard time bringing myself to getting that work I need to get done because it's so overwhelming. Having an 80% schedule fill is actually more difficult to do any work than having a 40% schedule filled. You're more productive when you are able to not have the overbearing weight of stuff down on you. And this is not new news. I mean, people know this kind of stuff. But if you're looking at that because you're like, yeah, this was my vice, this was my cope game, this is the thing that I played because I was overwhelmed, well, then that is a fine thing to have yourself start feeling, okay, maybe I need something else. Maybe I need a different vice. Maybe I need to stop going back to Path of Exile because that is the game that I do when I'm overwhelmed. Maybe I need a more productive option for when I am overwhelmed. And at that point, you start coming into, various options, various thoughts. Like, what else is something that you could do that would give you the same feeling, but one that you would consider to be more productive or make you feel like you spent less, or you've spent less time going crazy on this one game. And, that comes down to just various hobbies. I mean, for me, it's like building Warhammer, I like Warhammer, and it's a very satisfying hobby. If I'm ever like overly stressed about something, sometimes I'll just go find a random box in my pile of shame and something that maybe I haven't just opened for a while and just get going for it. I mean, hell, I recently built Hell's Last. It's a 5-person Imperial Guard squad from the Black Library. It's got Legends rules, but they're all, like one's a missionary, one's a commissar, so you can kind of swap them out. Great kit, but it's very simple. Great kit. I think it's like 1 sprue, maybe 2 sprues. And it was just a really nice hour of my time to just, it's so cathartic. It's like Zen, just going like with the little nippers and being like snip, snip, using the file, shave, and then glue. The smell of Tamiya cement just does something to me. I don't know why that smell is so nice, but it's definitely killing some brain cells in me, but it just helps so much. And then, that's one of them. The other one is, reading a book. That sounds silly, but like that's a different kind of vice. It's a vice that feels a little bit more fulfilling sometimes. I'm sure our 2301 does not have the same feeling as the hour that would be spent on reading a kind of like a novel or something. And only because there's a different kind of fulfillment in that realm. There's going for a walk. That's something there. Going to the park, going for a hike. I mean, physical activity is the great equalizer. There is nothing that will make you feel better in the world than physical activity. It's just getting yourself to do it. That's the hard part. I mean, in fact, we could have a whole fireside Bricky just about the importance of physical fitness and how what it does for the brain. But I mean, so often when if you weightlift or something of that nature, or even if you just go on a hike, the level of endorphins you produce. I mean, the body's signal is like, well, we can't really be stressed right now. We can't really produce cortisol or anything of that nature because we're currently in physical activity. We need to, either do the reward center or we need to do the muscle building center. So endorphins or whatever is needed to give you that. And then you just don't have the capacity to be stressed. Your brain chooses against it, and that helps a lot. And finding that kind of thing is important, and it comes down also to novelty. Like, new is almost always is good, and there is a certain level of like treadmill you're going to run on for a while. But the human brain was not meant to be doing the exact same task over and over and over again. Only they were not meant to be playing the same game for 3 hours a night every single night. They are meant for routine. The human brain likes its routine, but novelty is very important to be mixed in there. Having different kinds of experience is very important. It's actually one thing that I have been trying to do a lot more of, which is spend more time playing video games on my own time. Video games that I don't know if they would be good on stream. I played the entirety of Expedition 33 on my own time, and it was one of the best experiences in gaming I've ever had. I've been playing this cute little, dwarf romantic game you see in the background, and it has been just lovely. Just this warm blanket of a video game, this cozy, cute little puzzle that ticks just enough puzzle solving to make me interested, but nothing too hard to make me upset. And that there does what the 1000th hour of League of Legends cannot do. You say one of the things that you find difficult is that gaming is the thing that you used to actively enjoy. You like Elder Scrolls series, you like the lore especially, but you can't sit down for an hour or two to enjoy this universe without feeling guilty. And I think feeling guilty is something that you just will need to rewire your brain for. And I hate to say that, but it is something that you will need to be able to undo. And there's a second part of this, is that are you feeling guilty or is the luster just not there anymore? And that is something that you may need to experiment with. You talk about like the Elder Scrolls series and things of that nature. Great, don't get me wrong, great games, good stuff there. But are you truly playing the Elder Scrolls games in the same method you were when you were a kid? I mean, one of my most played games when I was a kid was Fallout New Vegas on the Xbox 360, and it ran at like 11 frames a second. I cannot re-experience that. If I open up Fallout New Vegas right now and I play it again, there is some childhood nostalgia in there, sure, but I'm an older man now. I'm a different man, and it's not going to have the same hit because I'm not the same person. Certain games do have the same hit, but you kind of have to recreate the circumstances with it, Modern Warfare 2 doesn't hit the same because I'm not talking with 5 of my friends on a crappy Xbox mic or Turtle Beach X11s, It's not quite the same. And so you might need to find something new. And that might be your issue. And if you still feel guilty about that, then that's something that I think you're just going to need to reutilize or find a way to reward yourself. And this is kind of where you get into a little bit more of the mechanical aspect of it all. Why would you ever feel bad about having an enjoyable day? Well, it's because you think you haven't done enough to begin with. What's a way to kind of help with that? Create a system where you feel like you do enough. If you are to wake up in a day and be like, okay, I am going to work on this stuff. Here is how much I'm going to work on it, and I'm not going to work on it anymore. And if you do that and you say, once I get this stuff done, I can then do the fun thing. This has worked wonders for me. Particularly one thing that I find to be the most powerful is something I call a work block. It is a 1 hour timer, give or take normally. And it is something where it's the 1 hour timer. You put do not disturb on your phone. You do not open any social media, any YouTube, nothing, except for maybe some kind of audio of sorts, like a 8 hours of brown noise or whatever it might be, some kind of background music. And then from there, you just completely lock in for the full hour. You don't answer any messages that aren't part of your work. You do not look at social media. You do not respond to texts. You do not have the text even pop up on you unless they are related to work, that is. Nothing. It is pure. If you are a writer, for example, you force yourself into an hour of that. If you have to get emails done or something like that, you force yourself into an hour of that. If you're someone who does a similar job to me, someone who makes YouTube videos, you do an hour of pure video editing. And from there, you have no clue how much work you can get done in a dedicated hour. It takes some willpower, absolutely. And you can start with like 30 minutes if you want to build your way up, but you have no freaking idea how much it is. This also includes cleaning. Set a timer for 30 minutes on your phone. Put some headphones in, put some music on, 30 minutes, and then go start cleaning the house. And just be efficient at it. Be quick, be smart. You have no idea how much you will get done. And then from there, when you do a couple of those in a day, let's say maybe about 3 hours of that in a day, bam, 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 you do an hour of work, you take like a 15-minute break for whatever it is, you do like 30 minutes of cleaning, eat some lunch, another hour of something else that you need to do. And then if you've done everything that you've needed to do, this is of course more related to a lot of you who are maybe working from home or have other particular tasks going on. If you're working a classic 9 to 5, this may not apply. But even so, getting all that stuff done, house stuff, personal stuff. And then once that's done, you can then feel good about doing the fun thing, about playing more of the video game, about doing that kind of stuff. And also sometimes it's kind of fun to like make it almost an event. For example, those of you who work a more traditional job, like a 9 to 5, you go into the office, you come home, or even those of you who work, maybe a little bit more of a confusing schedule job, blue collar workers, for example, truck drivers, trashmen, etc. Those of you, when you have the time to yourself and you feel like there's stuff to get done, just the small amounts can matter. Like if you come home from work, and, like after 5 p.m. or whatever it might be, you get home and you're like, God, the house looks like a pigsty or whatever. Sometimes just start small. Just be like, just force yourself for another 15 minutes to just clean up some things and have that stuff done, make your dinner or whatever. And then you can say, I've done it. I've made my time. I deserve this. That is also one of the main things to say is I deserve this. Because then you can end up really making an event out of it. For me, I, for some reason, have a really enjoyable memory of playing video games in the morning, early in the morning. And I think it's because I couldn't play a lot of video games in the weekdays. A rule my parents had were that you can't play video games until dinner because you got to do homework and stuff. And then after dinner, I had to read a certain amount. They had me read a book minimum 30 minutes every single day because my mom was a big reader and she wanted us to be literate in a few different ways. And then you could play some video games. So I only was able to play video games because of a bedtime for like an hour, maybe an hour and a half on the weekdays. And so, but on the weekends, it was, free game. And so I would wake up at like 6 in the morning because also I was waking up there anyway because of school. And I would go at 6 in the morning on like a Saturday. I would go downstairs, have like eggs or maybe like make myself some toast with like cinnamon and butter or something. And then I would just load up a Halo 3 and I would be playing Team Slayer on Snowbound with a big tall glass of water or maybe milk. I don't know, whatever it was. Nowadays it's coffee, but and then whatever, cinnamon toast or whatever it is. And just sitting down in like a chair or a couch playing Halo 3 at 6 a.m. And that feeling for me is magical. So I will occasionally do that again in the modern day. I will wake up. Sometimes I'll make myself that exact same thing. I will make myself the cinnamon toast. And then for me, it's coffee now. But then I'll wake up on like a Sunday or something, and it'll be 7 in the morning, and I will just play a video game and just enjoy myself. Really make a meal out of it. If you're having a Friday and you get all your stuff done and you feel accomplished and you feel proper and you feel ready to go, make it a thing. Go get your game going. Go ahead and get yourself some kind of food that reminds you of a childhood, something you really enjoy. That's, within reason, of course. Don't go too hard on the Mountain Dew and Doritos. And then, prepare yourself there. Get yourself all situated. Get like a little blankie for yourself, and just enjoy it. Be like, I am here. This is now my fun time. This is what I am here for. And then that feeling of wastefulness will kind of start to dissipate because, I've done the important work. I have done the work that is important for my life. It is now time for me to do the thing I love. And it kind of sucks that I have to say that, like, you are doing the thing you hate for most of your day and doing the thing you love later. But I don't think I can personally fix the horrendous job market and what a career path is for most people, especially now. And so I'm just going to have to provide whatever advice I can because, that's a whole other can of worms. But I don't know, that's kind of one of the ways I rest my mind. That's how I do it. That's how I get my work done and get myself prepped, and then I can sit down and actually feel like I've earned it. And then the more of your background obligations that you can fix, the better you can do. It's really hard to relax when you have a pile of laundry. And so just getting it done, knowing you don't have a task in the background is good, or at least a task you can't achieve now. Hopefully that helps. I know it's a big one. But hopefully I hit enough points there that helps you out a little bit. I know it's always a ramble, but that's what Fireside Bricky is. It's a ramble. And I talk about a lot of random things. But I hope you enjoy. I hope this helps you in some way. I hope you'll take my advice, or at least try. And if you do, report back. If any of you give this a shot, you try like the work block or whatever, and then you try to make a thing, please comment. Let me know. I'm curious to see if it's helped. Thank you again for listening. I will see you in a week. I'll see you next Monday. And I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.